Hello guys, and welcome to another episode of Movie Talk. In today's episode, what we're going to talk about is The Wasp and the Ant-Man, the new film coming out of Marvel Studios, Star Wars news from the Last Jedi. So as we go into today's episode, as I said, we're going to start talking about Ant-Man and the Wasp. So the first thing that's came out that we obviously just want to talk about is the new picture that we've just had released of Evangeline Lilly's Wasp character. So we've got a first look at her in the costume. Now the costume itself looks really cool, and at first glance it looks like it's not actually gold, or it doesn't have any of those really cool colors that we're used to, that were popping out from the first film, the end credits. So it's a bit muted in color, but if you actually look at the image properly, you can actually see that it does have a gold trim or a gold bit of armor around all of the costume itself, which doesn't look very noticeable, but it is. Maybe it's the lighting of the picture, I don't know. But as we look at that against the original from the end credit, it's so muted in regards to how they've done it with this particular image. Whereas the first one is quite vibrant, quite different, quite cool. This one's quite muted. Not that it's a bad thing, it's just a bit different to kind of what we expected. I was hoping for a more vibrant gold coming off the costume, but that's not actually a bad thing. So it's our first look at Ant-Man and the Wasp anyway. So we know they've been filming the film, it's probably wrapped by this point now, but this is our first look at images from that film. So also what we had was we had a picture, or a poster I should say, from the film that came out not too long ago, which also gave us a look at her in motion as well. And also we had a good look at the Ant-Man as well. Well, I should call him Giant Man. And it's a great image. Obviously just gives us a tone of what the film is going to be about. And then if we look closer, we had a look at what her costume looked like anyway. And in that picture there, the actual, you know, the picture that we've got here, we can see that it's not as muted as what we've got. So maybe it's just the picture that we've seen that makes it look a bit muted, but we'll have to wait and see. But in regards to the image itself and actually how it looks, I'm not too fussed on that. I want the Wasp to be the Wasp, and the Wasp needs to have that gold and that blue, or that gold and the black, because that's the character. So I'm interested to see what they do with it. It's a great first look at her. She's not actually rocking the bob anymore. She's grown her hair out, so that's quite cool. But I'm interested. I love what they do with the Marvel Universe, and I'm interested to see what they do, not only with her character, but with the Hank Pym character and also the Ant-Man himself. So yeah, let's see what they do. I'm interested, and yeah, hopefully we get some more pictures coming out. It's gonna be quite cool. Moving on, we had news come out that Ed Skrein, famous for playing the Transporter reboot, had came out and said that he doesn't want to do the Hellboy reboot film due to whitewash casting. Now I've talked about this before in a special that you guys can check out. Go and watch that video about is Hollywood ruining films, and there's all that kind of stuff about what we've talked about before, about miscasting people in the wrong roles. And it particularly happens with Asian characters, or people of Asian descent, characters who should be that way. And he found out that he was set to play a character who was actually Asian, and he wasn't happy with that, so he's departed the project to kind of leave it for somebody of that descent to actually come in and play the role. And I think it's a brave decision. He was already cast in the role, so to turn around and say it's not for me, thank you very much, hope do well with the project, but we really need to look at diverse casting. So he's departed, and yeah, who's gonna play? Just looking at the image here anyway, I don't know. I mean, I don't know the characters as well within the Hellboy universe, but I still think it's a brave decision to do that, and hopefully it doesn't mar the film overall. And it's brave in terms of maybe it opens up Hollywood to be more diverse with the casting and looking really at who they should be trying to get to play these particular roles. David Harbour is going to be obviously playing Hellboy in the new role, and we haven't really covered it much on here, but I'm interested to see what he does with it as well, just while we're talking Hellboy anyway. I mean, I liked him in Stranger Things. I haven't seen him in that many things. I've seen him in a couple of bits and bobs and TV series over the years, but I'm interested to see what he does with it. We're so used to seeing Ron Perlman play the role as he'd done in those two great films, and that this reboot could be interesting as well. But good luck to David Harbour, good luck to Ed Skrein. Hopefully he moves on to some other projects that it feels more worthwhile for him. And also I hope, as I say, it does open up a line of dialogue about more diverse casting. Moving on, we just want to take a minute to just talk about Toby Hooper, who recently died in the past week. Toby Hooper was the famous director of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. So as I say, he passed away, and obviously leaves behind a legacy of, horror tropes and things that films will be using for years to come. And obviously he's left behind such an iconic character in the form of Leatherface, and we're still getting sequels and films that are coming out about this character because he's so iconic. So he's left behind a legacy that, obviously means that we have to just talk about him on the show. So obviously it's sad news that he's passed away, age 74. That's pretty sad. But as I say, he's left behind a legacy of a great character that will be used in ways, shapes and forms, and the ideas that he's brought to the genre will forever live on in other films that they're going to make from now until the end of film, or as long as film continues, movies. So we just want to take a minute to just say, Toby Hooper passed away. Moving on, we're just going to talk about some Star Wars stories that are coming out, and obviously from The Last Jedi. So everything seems ominous, and the way they're playing this film out is so dark in its tone right now. So we've had another picture come out this week, and it was of Luke Skywalker looking very, very dark in this picture. It was come from Cinemania. I think it's a French, or don't quote me on that, it might be French, it could be Eastern Europe. Let's just say it could be French or Eastern European. I think it's Eastern European now, looking at it. But the picture itself obviously shows Luke Skywalker looking quite menacing and almost dark looking for some reason. Obviously they've got him in this particular image, and it's not the Luke Skywalker that we all know and love. He looks a bit dark, the costume looks dark, there's also that tint of red there, and they're playing it like he's almost like a Sith or a Darth, if you will. I mean, the look itself kind of mirrors something that Kylo Ren wears, which is quite interesting, but I'll delve a little bit deeper into that. Basically, we had that image, and then we had another image come up as well of Rey also wielding Luke Skywalker's lightsaber. So we know in the film that she's realistically going to have that, so he doesn't take it back off her, and he trains her, I'm guessing, in the ways of the Force. And there's a continuation of stuff that plays out from the last film, where he's teaching her, and he was wearing the white robes and now he's not. And then obviously we've got all of this stuff coming out, obviously with him in the darker garb. But there was another promo picture that came out that we managed to find, which actually shows that it's not actually as dark as they're making it out to be. It's actually brown robes we should say, or I think it's some sort of camouflage gear. Maybe they have to leave the desert, the planet that they're on, and go and obviously get on with whatever sort of mission it is that they have to do within the film. But I think they're trying to portray this, that he's turned to the dark side, when in fact he hasn't. I still believe he's the Luke Skywalker we know and love. At least I hope that's where they go. Otherwise you'll make that whole trilogy of the original films just mute, and that's opening up a whole can of worms that we don't really need to cover. But from these particular promos and images and stills that we've seen, it just looks like they've got to go and do something. I mean, you've got this image here and it shows Rey, and she's got some sort of robe on as well, and we can see that perhaps he might have a backpack on. So maybe they need to obviously go and do something. So this is the colors that they've gave him, more muted tones, more browns than the kind of whites. You can't really walk around in a white robe, let's say, but it definitely shows that this film in its tone will be darker, and they seem to be portraying that. Maybe the ideas of the Jedi aren't the same with him anymore, but the reds and the tones and the things that they're kind of building up, they are really trying to portray this like it's the Empire Strikes Back of this trilogy that they're making with these the standalone, with this saga movies. So I'm interested to see what happens with that. More stuff on Luke Skywalker, more stuff on Kylo Ren and on Rey. Let's just have a look at everything and just get to grips with it all. Moving on from there, Ben Affleck, as we still keep touching on, I think every episode we seem to keep talking about Ben Affleck at the moment, which isn't a bad thing, but it just means that we're just covering so much with him. This time isn't Batman talk per se, it's the fact he's going to direct a film called Red Platoon. Now the story of Red Platoon, from what I'm being made aware of, is actually a war film. It's the story of a soldier who goes behind enemy lines in the Afghan war, and obviously ends up saving, he takes a small band with him and ends up saving hundreds and hundreds of American troops because they do a counterattack against Afghan soldiers who were set to, strike against the US soldiers. And in turn, it's going to be a film that he's going to direct, and the rumors are that he's going to have his brother star in the film. But yeah, he's obviously signing on to direct. What that means for the Batman franchise, again, we don't know. Hopefully it's still part of it, but there's ongoing talks. No doubt he's going to be making this film through Warner Brothers because seems to have a good relationship with them at the moment, which is cool. But we'll see. As I say, guys, the more information we know, we'll let you know. So yeah, let's move on. In other news, obviously the writers of the Homecoming sequel, or the guys who wrote Homecoming, are coming back to do it on the sequel. So we don't know what the film will be, but if they keep it up the same way, then that should be pretty cool. So the writers Chris McKenna and Eric Summers are back to write the film. So that will be cool. And as long as they keep the same tone and the same sensibilities that we've had with Spider-Man Homecoming, which was a fantastic film, as I've touched on in my review, then yeah, I'm all for it because it was such a great film. As long as they keep it the same, that should be fine. I mean, just moving on from there, because we don't really want to touch on that for too much longer until they bring out more news and we hear stuff and see images. Fair enough. More about this standalone Joker film. The rumor is, obviously, there's Martin Scorsese, as we said on the previous episode, is being the producer on this film. Todd Phillips I still have a problem with, but the rumor coming out is that we are looking at none other than Leonardo DiCaprio to play this Joker in this film. Now, that got my attention. The idea that he would come in and portray this character, he could do it so interesting. I mean, you only have to see his character in Django and the way that he gets into a role. I mean, that could be something worth seeing, as this quick mock-up shows. But, I mean, somebody like Jared Leto's not happy about it, apparently. The rumor is that he's not happy about a standalone Joker, and I can see his point. He's trying to build his version, although I'm not happy and I'm not comfortable with his version overall. It's here, it's part of that DCEU. Now, to have somebody else now portray him at the same time that he's meant to be portraying the Joker, that's probably not only going to confuse audiences, it's also going to put the actors at odds with each other as well, because they're both portraying the same character at the same time and the same things are going on. And I don't know, it's interesting. But Leonardo DiCaprio all the same, that's not a bad choice. I remember there was talk about him a few years ago as well. Even before the Jared Leto casting, his name kept coming up, so he's been on the radar to do this for a while. And the idea that people want to see him do something in the comic book universe, maybe this could be it, and I'd certainly be interested on his take anyway. But the more news we know, again, I'll let you know. So yeah, moving on from there, this isn't really movie talk, but because it's obviously Netflix and it's obviously part of that, and we're not quite sure where to put it on there, maybe TV or whatever you want to say, we're just gonna have a quick talk about Luke Cage season 2, which just got an image released. And if you know anything, spoilers for those who haven't seen it, but if you're aware of what happened at the end of The Defenders, Misty Knight lost her arm. So the pictures that are coming out this week from the first look at that season 2 shows that Misty actually has her bionic arm that she has from the comic book series. So we've got the first look at her. She's sporting, it's like a sleeveless top denim shirt, which is quite cool, walking with Luke into what looks like to go in some sort of action, holding a gun with what looks to be a bionic arm. So the tech that she obviously gets at the end of The Defenders means that she'll have a cool bionic arm, and that's cool. And maybe she'll be able to do some of the cool stuff that she's able to do in the comic, where she can just like punch through walls and doors and all of that cool stuff. But just wanted to touch on that because it just looks cool. And again, being fans of all of this kind of genre, although it doesn't quite fit into movie talk, why not? But yeah, that's it for this episode, guys. If you like what you're seeing, like, comment, subscribe, and as always, just give me your thoughts. Let me know what you're doing. Let me know what you're watching, and let me know if there's anything you want me to talk about in the world of films.